Well, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us here at Ibru Primetime News on this, the 7th day of August 2020, a day that we commemorate the 22nd anniversary of the United States of America bomb blast that happened 22 years ago. We'll be giving you details of that. My name is Diana Rachel Mbugua. Our sign language interpreter for tonight is Joyce Wairimu. Now, men need to be extra cautious in observing directives to prevent the spread of the coronavirus in the country. Now, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe says the behavior patterns among the men makes them vulnerable of contracting the severe form of the virus. Now, this is after 727 people tested positive for COVID-19, of which 539 of them are men. The Health Ministry also dispelled the notion that lemon, honey and ginger are a cure for COVID-19. Winnie Lubembe tells us more.
Kenya has now crossed the 25,000 coronavirus infections mark to 25,138.
From our sample size tested in the last 24 hours of 6,814 people, we have now reported today 727 positive cases.
However, of great concern is the number of men contracting the illness, some getting the severe form of it, with the health CS attributing ego to the high figures.
And I know there might be some macho-ness, kuwa mungwana, kuwa mtu mkali, uonyeshe una nguvu, wewe huwezi kuvaa mask. Mimi ni fellow. Wewe ni fellow, mkali sana. If it was in the Wild West, you'd be slinging guns. You will die. Utakufa na hiyo ufelo yako.
With the numbers skyrocketing by the day, counties are required to ensure that they have the capacity to handle their cases.
Each county has and will continue to face unique challenges relating to COVID-19. As the cases continue to increase across the country, it will no longer be possible to refer cases away from our respective counties. We must have the capacity to manage such cases.
674 patients have recovered from the disease in the country, a majority being from various health facilities, taking the total number of recoveries to 11,118. However, 14 others have succumbed, bringing the cumulative deaths to COVID-19 to 413. The Ministry of Health was also quick to refute claims that ginger, lemon and honey cures COVID-19, saying,
Ginger, lemon, honey, again, good because those are sources of vitamins and micronutrients. But the message to take home from today is that there's still no cure for COVID. I will not stop taking you from taking your ginger, your honey, or your lemon as many times as you want, but for sure it's not a treatment or a cure for COVID.
And for the bar owners who flout COVID-19 regulations,
tusicheze na maneno ya maisha ya watu wetu namna hii. Eti unajifanya unaenda kufunga usiku huko alafu unaenda kuuza huko. Tusianze hii shortcuts hivi. We are thinking we are making a shilling here, making a shilling there. When in actual fact you are exposing yourself first, your family and the rest of the community.
Kisii County, which has surpassed the 300-bed capacity isolation centers, has reported over 40 COVID-19 cases.
Taken 2,457 samples from Kisii. We have 41 cases so far. We had 37 up to yesterday. Then when your office was reading the cases, we got another 4. So we now have 41, and it's a very sad thing for us.
COVID-19 in the African continent has surpassed the 1 million mark. More than 22,000 people have died, and almost 690,000 people have recovered. Winnie Lubembe for Ibru TV.
Now, Cabinet Secretaries Fred Matiang'i and Mutahi Kagwe have struck a rare camaraderie in government amid speculation they could play a big role in President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession. Interior CS Matiang'i and Health Mutahi Kagwe were once again at each other's side at CS Matiang'i's home in Kisii. The two lead dockets responsible for controlling the COVID-19 pandemic and have unrestricted access to the president.
The rare camaraderie between the two powerful cabinet secretaries could be interpreted as anything but official cabinet duties, with the two now seen by political pundits as positioning themselves as the boss President Uhuru Kenyatta nears the end of his term. Flanked by leaders from Kisii County, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i welcomed the Health Minister Mutahi Kagwe, with the two later holding a series of meetings with local leaders including Kisii Governor James Ongwae. This is not the first time the two have made pit stops together. Matiang'i and Kagwe were hosted by Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho in Mombasa during a tour to assess the preparedness of counties to fight COVID-19. Matiang'i was last year crowned as a Kisii leader as a blessing by the community to seek the country's top job. Pundits say a Matiang'i-Kagwe ticket in 2022 as a break from the familiar faces that have dominated national politics could be in the offing. Abdiaziz Hashim, Ibru TV.
Now moving on, ODM party leader Raila Odinga says that Kenya and the world must remain committed to the fight against terrorism. Now this comes as the country commemorated the 22nd anniversary since the August 7th, 1998 bomb attack on the U.S. Embassy in Kenya that killed 213 people and injured more than 5,000 others. Kenyans online, including the ambassador to Kenya for the U.S., continued to mourn those that were killed and standing with the injured and or affected by the attack. Now, the stalemate of a third basis formula on revenue allocation to counties has persisted after initiated talks between rival camps of senators collapsed. The rivalry in the camps widened after senators pushing for one vote, 1 shilling, refuted claims by senators from counties with less population say that they have built consensus on allocation of revenue. And as our reporter Jeff Hayemba reports, the standoff is likely to take a drastic turn after each camp vowed to pass its recommendations on the floor of the House once they resume on Tuesday next week.
It's not yet over until it's over. The third basis formula on the revenue allocation to counties on Friday was dealt a huge blow after senators from two camps failed to solve the long-standing tussle. Senators who had voted to have dialogue in a bid to unlock the impasse surrounding the division of the revenues to counties could not agree, with some senators alleging to have solved the puzzle.
We are supporting an amendment sponsored by Senator Mithika Linturi, the Senator of Meru, which is a further amendment to the one sponsored by Senator Johnson Sakaja.
They refused to submit their names. So Kenyans, you can clearly see there is no good faith.
Kwa hivyo leo tunasema ya kwamba wakati umefika goti liondolewe katika shingo letu tuweze kupumiwa. Na njia itakayowezekana ni sisi kama maseneta tukae pamoja bila wengine kutumia ule ujanja wa kusema ya kwamba tumeongea ilhali hatujaongea.
Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen supporting a win-win formula for all the counties despite his county gaining millions of money, says they have already reached consensus. But senators fronting for 1 man 1 vote shilling came out with guns blazing directed at Kipchumba Murkomen's camp.
The Linturi amendment retains the parameters contained in Senator Sakaja's original amendment, but only lowers the amount that will be shared to the counties using the already existing resolution. This amount shall range between 250 billion and 270 billion.
So if we cannot have a consensus, then let us go back to the House to pick a kura. Yeah. Why are they also so afraid of that? Yeah.
Watu wengine wamejifanya wao ndio hata kwa hii nyumba wanafaa kuongea kuliko wale wengine. Na saa hii wanataka kuonyeshana ulimwengu mzima uone ati wao ndio wanaweza kuja na suluhu ya haya maswala. We want to tell them without fear of doubt. That is their own proposal.
On Thursday, Senate Deputy Speaker Margaret Kamar had been elected to lead dialogue effort in a new proposed team. But Kamar, with the Uasin Gishu senator, pulled out of the committee, citing conflict of interest, as she is supporting more resources channeled to more populous counties. Speaker of the Senate Kenneth Lusaka had agreed to chair the dialogue team, but by Friday, senators from the counties losing billions of money had not fronted their names.
We have mandated Senator Sakaja to work with Senator Linturi in consultation with other colleagues to ensure that they burn the midnight oil and give us the final document or on before 10th August 2020.
That the so-called losing counties have refused to forward the names of members to this crucial committee, indicating and clearly demonstrating that they have no intention of finding compromise.
Thank you.
Kakamega huwezi kusema kwa watu kama hawa milioni 2 ati unachukua pesa inalingana na wale watu ambao ni milioni 1 ama less a million. It is not fair.
We believe that the proposed solution brings to an end the prolonged debate on this matter, and that on Tuesday, 11th August 2020, the Senate will pass the final version unanimously.
It's now a do-or-die political game on the floor of the Senate, with each camp maintaining their headline stances.
Kamara alichaguliwa aongoze hiyo mkutano. Wakasema mheshimiwa Kamar hatoshi. Tukasema wacha speaker awekwe. Speaker kukuja nao wakasema hawataki. Hiyo kipindi ambayo wanacheza, hao wanajitakia wenyewe. Wanagoma waende wachukue pesa pale pengine, hiwe tunazungushana leo, kesho na kesho kutwa. Hii ni mara ya 7.
The push and pull over the resource allocation to counties is likely to cripple operation of the counties, with the Council of Governors Chair Wycliffe Oparanya warning of a looming crisis. It's now clear that the dialogue among the senators to resolve the standoff over the division of the revenue to the county government has already collapsed. What remains is whether indeed the counties will have to survive amid the standoff. Reporting for Ebro TV, I'm Jeff Khaemba.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for that report. Now, moving on, in a move likely to spark a lot of debate, the government has begun the process of appealing the decision to award residents of Owino Uhuru Slum in Jomvu, Mombasa County, over R1 billion in damages over lead poisoning claims. This is after the Environment and Lands Court and Labour Court in Mombasa ruled in favor of 3,000 victims of lead poisoning caused by a smelting factory that had been put up within the informal settlement.
Yesterday's ruling to us is a breath of fresh air. Though it has come late, many of us who have fought this fight with us have already died. They will never see justice. But this will at least enable us to compensate their families.
That was just 21 days ago when the residents of Owino Uhuru Slum in Jomvu, Mombasa County, were celebrating their newfound fortune that was supposed to come as a relief after decades of pain and death.
You know that there are elements within government that will try to play smart.
And 3 weeks later, the residents are confirming their worst fears.
There are those that will think they have to go and appeal. We urge them to remember that the children of Owino who have paid with their blood.
As the government did just that, appeal the decision. In suit papers, Attorney General Kihara Kariuki wants the 16th July decision by the Environment Court that found the government guilty of failing to stop lead poisoning on the residents overturned. And that is not all.
After 120 days, if they fail to do, then they have to pay 700 million to us as Center for Justice. And we will come back here and do that work.
The government also wants to stop the cleanup ordered by the court done on the slums within 4 months, failing which liable parties will pay a 700 million shillings fine. The move by the government comes even as many residents continue choking up on the poison.
Ikuwa nimeanza kitu kwa shingo kufura, kwa shingo mara natetemeka, kila mara nasikia baridi. Ikiendelea hivyo kwenda hospitalini, venye matokeo yalikuwa yamekuja, wakaniambia ni lead na hiyo uvimbe wa shingo haiza rudi mpaka ile nini ya reli rudi chini.
With many more losing their lives due to the same.
Ile ilikuwa ni sumu kumbe na hatujui. Haka tukabahatika mtoto akawa ameathirika. Akakufa baada ya miaka 2.5. Hatukuchoka kutafuta, tulitafuta mwingine, mimba ikaje ikatoka. Hatukuchoka tena, tukaendelea tukapata mtoto 2014 ambaye mamake baada ya mtoto kuzaliwa akakaa wiki moja na akafa mama mwenyewe.
In her ruling, Environment Court, Judge Anna Omolo gave the parties 90 days to pay the award, apportion liabilities to the Ministries of Health and Environment, the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, the Export Processing Zones Authority, the Metal Refinery Company, and Penguin Paper and Book Company. And if his application is allowed, the matter is expected to be heard before a 3-judge bench that will then decide on whether or not the residents should get the cash. But the residents saw this coming and hinted at not relenting in their quest.
We are waiting for them after 90 days. If they don't pay us, they will understand what the power of the people. But if they fail, then we are ready for them. We go back to the people, and the people of Kenya will decide.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has revoked the appointment of Bernard Muteti as Industrial and Commercial Development and Cooperation Board Chairperson. The head of state replaced him with John Ngumi. The appointment of Muteti has irked many Kenyans online, questioning the president's non-consideration for the youth for various positions within the government.
The new wave of appointment comes amid the surging pandemic, with the president revoking the appointment of Bernard Muteti as the Industrial and Commercial Development and Cooperation ICDC Board Chairperson and replacing him with John Ngumi. The appointments have rekindled an old debate as to why the youth are not considered for various positions within the government. Ngumi's term is set to end in 2022. Meanwhile, former Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC Chief Executive Officer Halake Wako has been appointed as the chairperson of Universities Fund Board in changes gazetted by Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha. The former EACC boss will serve for a period of 3 years. Other appointments contained in the Gazette notice include KANU Secretary General Nick Salat's designation as the chairperson of the Agriculture Development Corporation Board. He was moved from the Postal Corporation Board, which was assigned to ICT Authority Chairman Nani Mungai. Abdelaziz Hashim, Ibru TV.
Now, the lack of proper personal protective equipment among healthcare workers in Kenya will now be a thing of the past after the Nairobi Metropolitan Services received PPEs worth 85 million shillings from well-wishers. And in a bid to decongest referral hospitals in Nairobi County, NMS Director General says they will build 24 health facilities in informal settlements. Busarana Aman tells us more.
Speaking during the handover ceremony at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital, Major Badi said that the PPEs will be distributed to designated COVID-19 management hospitals in the county to ensure that all frontline healthcare workers access the PPEs.
Unfortunately, COVID has not spared the medical sector. We have lost doctor, clinical officers and nurses through COVID.
According to recently released data by the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, KMPDU, and the Kenya National Union of Nurses, over 700 healthcare workers have contracted coronavirus, while 10 have already died from the virus.
And we are doing everything possible to ensure that they get the best services, the medical workers. What has happened before, I can't talk about the discrepancy or their complaints before what they've had at the county.
The crisis is a reality in Nairobi, the national coronavirus hotbed, where more than 5 medical centers have been closed after workers contracted the virus. A situation that has prompted some of the health staff to threaten to down their tools and abandoning their stations over lack of PPEs, unpaid salaries and other welfare concerns.
There is nothing in Lamu known as COVID-19 preparedness, COVID-19 management. There is no PPEs in Lamu. There is no any training that has happened in Lamu County, and therefore we have 6 of the health workers who are tested positive.
However, Badi insists that the lack of PPEs will be a thing of the past, as Kenya will no longer import PPEs, citing that the local manufacturers are now able to produce better quality PPEs. Initially, healthcare workers complained of defective and substandard PPEs, saying this was the main contributing factors to increased cases of infections among them. Elizabeth Maina is the CEO for the Kenya Medical Association.
So I can assure my fellow colleagues from Mama Lucy that yes, we have gone through the process of making sure that it's quality and we take responsibility.
In a bid to curb congestion in referral hospitals in Nairobi County, especially during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services has promised to build 24 health facilities in informal settlements starting Monday next week. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Busara Naaman.
Well, thank you, Busara Naaman, for that report. Moving on, University of Nairobi lecturer Ken Ouko has today been laid to rest at his parents' Homa Bay home. Widow of the late professor described how unfortunate Ken Ouko was stigmatized due to her COVID-19 status. Dr. Ouko had blamed the Homa Bay County COVID-19 emergency response team, accusing it of failing to follow stipulated regulations and attempting to deny the family an opportunity to bury the renowned sociology lecturer. During the burial, in a bid to protect mourners, the body of the renowned UON Don, who succumbed to COVID-19 complications last Saturday, was not viewed. His body was also not placed next to his parents' house, as is the norm with the Luo customs, but was instead taken directly to his gravesite. Now may his soul continue to rest in peace. And moving on, still on sad matter, messages of condolence continue streaming in for the fallen former Changamwe MP Ramadhan Seif Kajembe, who passed on today at the Pandya Hospital, Mombasa County. President Kenyatta has led a host of political leaders in mourning the man who also served as Assistant Minister for Environment from 2008 to 2013. It is a triple tragedy for Kajembe's family after he lost his second wife, Zaharia, just 2 weeks ago, with the reports indicating that she suffered COVID-19 complications. This was after the politician lost his first wife, Aziza, 4 months before Zaharia's death. It is reported that has been buried at the Kajembe family cemetery. Now, Marikiti traders were on Friday morning left counting losses after a fire destroyed part of the market in Nairobi's Central Business District CBD following an alleged land ownership dispute with Kenya Railways. Now, the stores used by the traders to house their trading materials such as sacks were completely destroyed in the inferno. The incident came a day after Kenya Railways evicted some traders who operated at a site owned by the Paracetal, which is currently on an ownership dispute with traders.
Yesterday, I saw some officers of police here. They never told us they were coming to invade this place. So this morning, I found out that this place has been broken into and they stole my melons and other items. So I don't know why they did that with the protection of police officers. So is that justice really?
Kwanza na sasa tuna hata pesa na wanatufukuza, tutaenda wapi kusema ukweli? Na tujajipanga, tuna na mali ni wakuuzia. Sasa hivi vitu zetu wanatuambia tutoke, tutaenda wapi?
Now, the battle for the soul of the capital is now at the heart of the corridors of justice, with activist Okia Omtata now moving to court seeking to quash the creation of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. In his second attack at the executive, Omtata now accuses President Uhuru Kenyatta of abusing his powers when he created the Nairobi Metropolitan Services.
49 days after the Labor Relations Court found that the transfer of some functions from the Nairobi County to the national government as being unconstitutional, activist Okia Omtata is back at the corridors of justice, seeking to attack the heart of the deed of transfer. In suit papers, Omtata now says that President Uhuru Kenyatta disregarded the law in the establishment of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services and further abused his power when he placed the NMS under the Executive Office of the President. In a revised executive order issued on May 11th, President Kenyatta listed Nairobi Metropolitan Services Director General Mohamed Badi under the Executive Office of the President, meaning the implementation of the transferred functions would be under the direct supervision of the president, with Umtata now arguing that there is no provision in law for using an executive order to establish what he calls a state corporation. On June 18th, Lady Justice Helen Wasilwa of the Employment and Labor Relations Court declared the transfer of some of the Nairobi County functions to the national government as unconstitutional. In her decision, in a suit still filed by Umtata, the judge ruled that the transfer was vague, citing the lack of approval by the county assembly. While all that is going on, the governor has now launched spirited efforts to gain back the control of the city. Just Thursday, he reached out to ODM leader Raila Odinga and Chief Justice David Maraga, saying that if the duo does not intervene, the capital could cripple down and be taken away by selfish individuals. Sonko, who has in the recent past said that he was drunk when he authorized the transfer, now says the NMS is overstepping on his mandate of complementing on his administration and is now competing with his administration.
Now, an environmental conservation lobby in Nakuru is calling on county governments to form a special fund to address a looming crisis in children's homes following the outbreak of the coronavirus. Led by its executive director, Christine Wangari, the lobby also called on President Uhuru Kenyatta to consider creating a tax exemption for food donations or for donations to charitable institutions.
Speaking at the lobby's offices in Nakuru County, when she donated 2,000 kilograms of beans and fruits to 10 children's homes, the lobby's executive director, Mrs. Wangari, said while the government was doing a commendable job to stop the spread of the coronavirus, most donors had apparently forgotten about children's homes.
Children's homes who are actually going hungry and who actually approached us for food assistance. And indeed, we all know that during this COVID epidemic, these kind of scenarios are inevitable.
She said most children's homes cannot be closed down as they were catering for individuals whose parents were imprisoned, had no guardians or were orphaned, adding that county administrations need to formulate intervention measures should COVID-19 find its way into the charitable institutions.
So we are asking also like-minded people across the board to team up to visit this home through the Ministry of Culture, not any donors, to visit these homes and give them whatever help they can.
One of the home's director, Catherine Jones, said children's homes had stockpiled food and non-food items after reports indicated that the locust invasion would result in food shortages. The stocks, however, ran out with the persisting pandemic.
We have like 80 children, and for real we have us from small babies who are roughly less than a year. For sure, most so during this time when we have the coronavirus pandemic, we are very much hit, and actually we don't have anything to feed our children. So I'm calling upon all the well-wishers from outside there in whatever they can assist us with. We'll be so grateful.
Like now we have a lot of children hungry. They don't get 3-course meal. Even getting one meal is a problem. So we would appeal for people to donate food to give to people and the children who are suffering this idea.
Now the lobby is appealing to the government and the county governments to come to the rescue of children's homes. Reporting for Ebro TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
All right, we take a very short break, but when we come back, the conversation on the World Breastfeeding Week, the disconnect in breastfeeding or exclusive breastfeeding for that matter. We'll be right back. Don't go too far. Well, welcome back to the broadcast. Now, 39% of children in the country have not been exclusively breastfed, exposing them to illnesses and infections. As the world marks Breastfeeding Week this year, it is a bit different, with nursing mothers, especially those who have tested positive for COVID-19, being advised to continue breastfeeding their babies while exercising caution. The Ministry of Health Thursday said that research showed transmission of COVID-19 via breast milk is highly unlikely. Now tonight, we discuss, or rather we talk to Dr. Alvin Juma to expound more on the gap in the country when it comes to exclusive breastfeeding. And tonight we are joined by Dr. Alvin. Karibu sana to the broadcast and this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about concerning exclusive breastfeeding, not only breastfeeding, but exclusive breastfeeding. And of course, this is very important when it comes to the child for the first 6 months. And it is a topic or something that many women or mothers have heard about. Are there any, or do we have any statistics on how we are doing as a country? Perhaps we can start from there.
Well, as a country, actually, we're one of the leading countries when it comes to exclusive breastfeeding. Compared to almost 30 years ago, when only around 23% of women were breastfeeding exclusively for the first 6 months. The last WHO statistics show that around 61% of women in Kenya are exclusively breastfeeding, which is way above the average in Africa, which is around 50%. So we're doing quite well.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So right now, when we have COVID-19, there is a huge gap in the percentages that mothers who are actually doing exclusive breastfeeding. Where is the disconnect from your point of view?
Well, yeah, I also saw it in the media recently. Mothers are concerned, about passing the virus to their babies, but the ministry came out strongly to advise that it is safe to continue breastfeeding. There is no evidence that the virus is spread in breast milk. Of course, you have to take precautions like wearing a face covering or a face mask. But there are very few medical indications that would stop a mother from exclusively breastfeeding. Even in the cases of HIV or hepatitis, we still do encourage mothers to exclusively breastfeed. Of course, we take other necessary precautions, but there's nothing as better as natural breast milk, at least for the first 6 months.
Okay.
So I think it's just a matter, it's the fear of passing on the virus to their children that's maybe stopping people from breastfeeding.
Yeah, and how about before COVID-19? We hear of stories of, for example, in rural areas, there are some who actually do not still breastfeed exclusively for 6 months. You find mothers who actually start giving their babies at 3 months porridge. Is it that the government is not doing enough to inform this part, or what exactly is why is there that gap?
All right. Yeah. So that's quite common in the rural areas. From experience, is some mothers feel like the breast milk is not enough. It does not satisfy the child. So to top up to make the baby feel fuller, they would give your traditional foods like the nduma, the matokes, and all that.
Yeah.
Which is not right in some way because the baby system is not ready for that kind of thing. Also, there is this notion of giving kids like cow milk, also to just like kind of make them fuller, which is also not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, in the urban areas, or for your working class woman, the reasons why they don't breastfeed are mostly because they need to go back to work after the 3-month maternity period. And most of them feel it's a hassle to pump out milk, store it, and have someone else give it, or they come give it later on. Also, we are lagging behind compared to the rest of the world, where lactating mothers are offered work-based facilities to be able to, breastfeed their kids. So, we don't have the infrastructure in place that facilitates women who are working to continue breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And the last thing I think I've noticed also is the stigma or the social embarrassment of a woman to publicly, breastfeed. Like you're in a matatu
Yeah.
and you want to breastfeed, you're thinking, okay, maybe I don't want to expose myself, something of the sort. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
So
stigma
the
surrounding
rural
that.
woman and the urban woman, the reasons are kind of varied. Yeah.
All right, and also talking about the urban setting, we have this better option, or what the doctor would say as a next better option, best option, when, for example, a mother cannot express milk, and that is formula, the use of formula. But is there an issue that formula making companies as well are, spending millions in making formula use trendy?
Yeah, so if I just can take you back in time, like in the 50s, in the 60s, actually, not even the companies were advocating for formula milk. Like in the US, there was this huge campaign. Doctors thought like formula milk is much better than normal breast milk, because they could engineer it and enhance it nutrition-wise. So for most part of that 50s, 60s, even into the 70s, that was driven by healthcare workers.
Yeah.
So I mean, easy solution, right? If you don't want to breastfeed, just whip out, the cream and whatever. I mean, the powder, water, very easy solution. But then later on, they discover, science keeps on evolving. They discover that, it's not as nutritious as natural breast milk. So there was a shift in the science world. I mean, and of course, these guys were invested heavily in research and production of formula milk. So of course, they have to fight that and promote it. Yes, formula milk is not that bad in certain situations. If a mother cannot really breastfeed, that's the next best option. However, we strongly advise against cow milk or any other form of milk.
Yeah. Yeah. But when it comes to giving people information on this, of course, because, of course, there are people who use, they don't use cow milk. They would rather use another option. But when it comes to information, do you think the government is doing 100% to, make sure everyone is, or every mother is taking up breastfeeding?
I think the antenatal program and mother and child health programs. Yeah. I mean, the information is there from the community health workers to dispensary clinics, hospital. The government, I think, is doing a lot. Although this year, because of COVID, this breastfeeding week has really gone unnoticed. Everyone is focused on COVID, but I think in general, MCH care, antenatal care in this country is really well developed. It's free. In the booklets, you have a lot of information and the benefits, why you should breastfeed, when you should not breastfeed, and what are the alternatives. So I think the government is doing its part. I think the onus is on the people to embrace the advice that we get, and then of course, it doesn't hurt to re-emphasize. I think like this week, we should have taken a step back from COVID and really put out word there, and people should have marked this week in a better way.
Yeah. Okay, let me take you back to the issue on stigma. Do you think this is going to end anytime soon, considering what you said about breastfeeding in public? People saying if I breastfeed, my breasts are going to hang or look some other sort of way. What can be done to end this, or to just reduce the kind of stigma that we see in the country? Is it attributed, or is it caused by what we see in other countries in the Western world?
I think our culture plays a big role. If I don't know, I think people feel like exposing one's breast in public is kind of rude.
Yeah.
And you should only do that at home. So I think addressing the cultural practices or people's beliefs will go a long way. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Actually, there are about 35 companies in Kenya that have set up like lactation centers So more people should embrace this at workplaces to normalize breastfeeding and actually encourage breastfeeding. So if you can have like rooms in the office, in workplaces where women can actually go and just, if you don't want to carry a kid to work, you can go and really express and store your milk and go and feed your baby later on.
Yeah, that's true. So when I take you back to the rural setup, even as we wrap up, there's the issue of poverty, and these mothers are caused, there's a lot that influences the amount of breast milk that you're able to express. For example, the levels of stress. If you have so much, you only have that, for people in the rural setup or poor people, they're relying on a meal for that day so that they can make it. So perhaps they actually don't have, enough even in their bodies or for them to express as much as they should. That's a factor, right?
Yes, so milk production, it's dependent on so many things. What you put in actually will give you what you give out. So we do encourage mothers, rural or urban, to eat healthy food, drink plenty of fluids, avoid stressful situations, and and also the biggest trigger for milk production is breastfeeding. So if you don't breastfeed, the baby will not trigger more milk production. So it's a vicious cycle. So the more you breastfeed, the better. The less you breastfeed, the worse the outcome. But overall, yes, those are challenges that we'll have to. You don't have one solution for it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, nutrition is very important. A stable psychosocial environment at home.
Yeah.
Most important, start breastfeeding your child as soon as he or she is born.
Yeah. Because I mentioned that because if you take an example of someone who's working at a tea plantation and they have, they're relying on a daily wages, they have to go to that. Most of them we've seen going with their babies to the tea plantations. By the time they come back, do they actually have enough food to express enough, to contribute to the milk that they are producing? Which is a challenge, like you said.
Yeah, those are the social economic factors which we may not be able to fully address here. But as I say, any way you can get the child to breastfeed is better than not breastfeeding at all.
Okay.
And the longer the period you defer, like introduction of food, other foods or other forms of milk, the better. As you say, this mother is living on less than $1 a day.
All right.
Most formula milk costs over 1,000 shillings. So that's out of reach.
Yeah.
So the best way is to encourage them to eat locally available nutritious foods so that they can be able to stimulate milk production for their children.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Alvin. Could you just wrap up by telling us which is the way forward perhaps to achieving or to fill that gap of the 39% of the people who are still not breastfeeding, of the mothers? What do you think is the way forward?
I think as healthcare workers, we have to really sell more the idea of breastfeeding, like the benefits. If people understood the benefits that they're missing out on. Just for example, just to sum it up, mothers who breastfeed tend to have less depression. In future, long-term benefits are less hypertension, less diabetes, less breast cancer, less ovarian cancer. So there's a lot of benefits for the mother herself, not even mentioning that kids have less asthma, less allergies, less pneumonia, less ear infections. So there's a lot of benefits that come with breastfeeding. So let's go out there and breastfeed our kids as much as we can.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. All right. Let's move on to other stories here at Ibru Primetime News. And coffee farmers, by virtue of being members of a cooperative society, are eligible to apply for the Coffee Cherry Advance Revolving Fund to boost production. However, coffee estate farmers must be associated with a new Kenya Planters Cooperative Union to qualify for the fund.
New Kenya Planters Cooperative Union Chairman Henry Kinyua says that deliveries to coffee cooperative societies act as collateral to members, but farmers of coffee estate must have a certain percentage of deliveries to the union to stand for the same.
The money is ready. In fact, this week our CEO was able to explain to farmers that we are releasing the first batch to farmers in Meru, because farmers in Meru are the one now most of them already have the parchment and have the cherry. And therefore, it's so important to ensure that the cooperatives here and farmers here are ready, so that when they begin harvesting their coffee in September, they can qualify immediately. They harvest, they can get the cherry advance to benefit, to help them in picking the coffee, or even because it's their money. Is basically when they have the coffee, they can be able to access that.
The meeting was convened to enlighten farmers on the revolving fund, that money is now available for them to apply and improve their farming. President Uhuru Kenyatta initiated the fund to address the ailment facing the coffee sector and restore it to its lost glory when it was referred to as Kenya's black gold.
If you borrow as cherry advance, then you qualify for it's 20 shillings per kilo of cherry. 20 shillings per kilo of cherry. If you decide to borrow as a parchment, when it's already been taken to mill as a parchment, then parchment you qualify for 40% of the value of that coffee. It's not difficult to value coffee at any one time, so it will be valued either using the coffee exchange prices and all that, and then you say you can borrow up to 40% of that.
He allayed fears that new KPCU would monopolize milling and marketing, noting that they were all at liberty to choose the miler and marketer. Speaking during the same occasion, Nyeri County Commissioner Lyford Kibara warned coffee societies leaders that they will be held personally responsible if coffee theft are reported from their areas.
All of you, the managers and chairmen, you are following our instructions. Reason is to avoid coffee theft within our system, and we are also protecting what we call hawking of coffee. Just people coming in to get your coffee so that they take it to, I don't know, the best mirror and all that. That hawking.
Reporting for Ibru TV, I'm Dolly Murigi.
All right, let's take a look at the world of sports. A section of aspirants are in doubts with the FKF Electoral Board towards the forthcoming elections. Tom Alila, one of the aspirants, says the purported letter released by the Electoral Board outlining how the elections will be conducted should have been addressed to all delegates and stakeholders in the sports industry.
As FKF presidential election gears up in the country, a section of aspirants and delegates have raised concern over how FKF Electoral Board has been carrying itself towards the elections. In a one-on-one interview with Tom Alila, an aspirant in the presidential seat, the purported letter released by the Electoral Board outlining how the election will be conducted should have been addressed to all delegates and stakeholders in the sports industry.
But yesterday we were appalled by the content of that letter that was purportedly sent by FKF Election Board. We are not refusing to go for elections, but we want the elections to be done in a proper manner. All we are asking is the stakeholders need to be called, and then they can set the electoral code the way FIFA had anticipated. We are asking FIFA to send the delegation that they were saying was supposed to come according to the letter that they had written.
The letter dated 6th August indicated that FKF Electoral Board will publish a roadmap and regulation that will be used to oversee the coming elections. In addition, the election will be carried out in accordance with the health regulations. Alila further stated that he does not fear the elections but called for transparency in the process so as to have a fair exercise.
So that's what we are asking for. Let FIFA come. FIFA also should respect the laws of this country. The SDT deliberation was dispensed of, and they are stated in their ruling therein that all stakeholders must be involved in these coming elections. That's all we are asking for. We are ready for elections and we are ready to participate when it is called until all these conditions are set forth. So the election, the supposedly letter from FKF Election Board should call stakeholders meeting first of all before outlining these issues. They are saying the outlining of all these issues should involve all the delegates. and all stakeholders so that we can have a fair and free election.
Daniel Dembede, Ebru TV, Kisumu County.
Now, Gor Mahia elections will proceed as scheduled on Saturday, despite a suit filed before the Sports Dispute Tribunal, SDT, on Wednesday. 7 Gor Mahia fans had filed before the SDT a suit seeking to stop the elections, but SDT fixed it for mention on August 18th for further directions. There has been discontent in the manner of applying the club's current governance clause, which allows only those with university degrees to view for leadership positions. In an exclusive interview with Ebru TV late last month, Gor Mahia chairman Ambrose Swashier insisted that no amendment will be made on the clause.
Lazima useme wewe umesoma au hujasoma. Wewe tuchukue kama bunge au kumba kwa MCA, kila kwa senator, kwa president, lazima uweze kusema mimi mwana Kenya, mimi ni 18 years. Na mimi ijapokuwa sijui kuandika jina langu, mimi nataka kuwa president ya Kenya. Wacha tuseme hivyo kwa hiyo chambua. Kwa hivyo mimi mwenyewe siwezi kumzuia mtu kwenda kotini ikiwa koti itasema simamisha uchaguzi. Mimi ni Mkenya, ni mwanasheria. Nitatii.
Now, 4 world champions are among 15 Kenyan athletes who have been cleared to compete in Monaco's leg of the Diamond League next Friday. Helen Obiri, 5,000 meters, Beatrice Chepkoech, 3,000 meters, steeplechase, Consolas Kipruto, 3,000 meters, and Timothy Cheruiyot, 1,500 meters, have received Shenzhen visas and are scheduled to leave for Monaco on Monday. Also cleared for the event are reigning Olympic 1,500 meters champion Faith Chepngetich, Ferguson Rotich, Winnie Chebet, and fast-rising junior Jacob Krop. Others are Vincent Kipchumba, Timothy Sain, coach Bernard Ouma. Now, London Marathon organizers have announced that this year's rescheduled race will go ahead on October 4th, but for elite athletes only. Mass runners have been excluded due to fears over the coronavirus pandemic. The race was initially scheduled for April 26, but was moved to October 4th with 4 other big city races that form the World Marathon majors, namely Boston, Chicago, Berlin, and New York, cancelled. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge and women's World Marathon record holder Bridget Kosgei are the defending London Marathon women's champion. The finishing timings count towards Olympic qualification for the 2020 Games in Tokyo, which have been delayed by 12 months. Well, this is where we wrap up Ebru Primetime News. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for keeping it Ebru, and thank you to everyone who made this bulletin a success. My name is Diana Rachel Mbugua. Our sign language interpreter for tonight has been Joyce Wairimo. Do have yourself a lovely night and a lovely weekend ahead. God bless you.